everyone, welcome back to my channel and happy Tumbler Tuesday. Today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how I created this Halloween and fall collaboration peekaboo tumbler. Not only that, this tumbler is actually part of a tumbler cup swap that I'm in, and this is the first time I've ever made another tumbler for another creator out there or been in this cup swap. So I am super excited. She told me she liked fall and Halloween, but she liked more of a hocus pocus Halloween town style Halloween than the scary gory Halloween. So I came up with this fun two-toned, two-sided peekaboo Halloween but yet still fall tumbler. I hope you guys love this tutorial as much as I did making it, and of course I hope whoever my cup swap person is, she loves it just as much as I do as well. Alright guys, that's enough for me. Let's go ahead and jump in. So I went in with the colors Colonial Red, Real Orange, Meadow Green, Sun Yellow, Grape, and Rust-Oleum 2 times, and then I went in with Krylon, Fluorescent Green, and Orange. I went ahead and split the cup into 2 separate sections, making one side my fall side and one side my Halloween side. So on my fall side, I will use my colors Orange, Green, Yellow, and Red. And I'm going in with PETEY Bonfire, PETEY Mulberry, New England Glitter Sunshine, and we're going to go ahead and lay those on top of the corresponding colors that we have on the fall side. I go over those glitter colors a few times just to make sure that my epoxy has good glitter coverage so there's no epoxy shiny spots. Once I'm done with that, I go over to the other side. As you can see, I used my my fluorescent orange, green, and the purple. Went ahead and put them in random stripes. I applied epoxy on here. I am still using my SPEEDY PETEY Fast Set epoxy. For this entire tumbler, I made 5 milliliters and I didn't even use half of that, so it's just very thin light coats of epoxy. I'm going in with your colors Lucky Charms from PETEY and Sour Apple from New England Glitter, and I'm mixing those together. And then I'm mixing Grapester from New England Glitter and High Voltage from PETEY together, and I'm mixing Copycat from Diamonds and Dust and Candy Queen from PETEY together as well, just to get this more vibrant, chunky colors that I'm looking for. So I go ahead and I apply those on top of the corresponding colors again, just kind of ombreing them out. Like, there is no rhyme or reason. You don't really have to stick them together. After all, this is going to be a peekaboo tumbler, so you don't have to worry about, you know, your colors being 100% ombre together or harsh lines. That's why I kind of did it in a swirl pattern, so this way you can kind of hide it. I do go over those a few times, just making sure, like I said, that my epoxy, there is no wet spots looking through my glitter, because if not, that will show. Once that's done, I take a piece of paper and I wrap it around my tumbler and I just kind of rub it down, pushing down any of that chunky glitter. You can use parchment paper. I didn't have any next to me, so I just went ahead and utilized the drip paper or the glitter paper saving paper, whatever you want to call it, down there. And I went in with, I believe, 30 milliliters of my Fast Set SPEEDY PETEY. Went ahead and applied that to my tumbler. Went ahead and I let that dry for about 45 minutes to an hour before I went in with 2 more layers of epoxy. Make sure you go ahead and pop any and all of the bubbles you may or may not see with your heat torch. Once that is done, I went ahead and sanded my rim down. I totally started putting the decals on without hitting record. I'm so sorry. But I went ahead and found these images, some on CreativeFabricA and some on Design Bundles, and I started applying all of the Halloween patterns vinyl to the Halloween colored side. So I have some leaves, I have ghosts, I have pumpkins, and I don't remember what my other one was. I know I have 2 different types of leaves. I had some pumpkins, I had some ghosts, and I had some skeletons. So I put all of the leaves and on one side, on the fall side, and then I put all of the Halloween's vinyl decals on the other side. It is also mixed in with a cheetah print, leopard print, so I go ahead and apply those all over the bottom and corresponding to the sides. When laying these decals down, I'm really making sure I'm adding as many of them as I possibly can, keeping them close together. This pattern is going to be the main focus of this whole entire tumbler, so I want to make sure there's a lot of it when we do our geode. Once I'm done, I go in with SPEEDY PETEY Fast Set. I mix 20 milliliters of epoxy. I let that dry for 30 minutes, and then I go in with my second layer of epoxy, and I let that cure for 2 or 3 hours before I remove it from the turner and start the next steps. Once my tumbler is dry, I go in with real orange and Rust-Oleum, and I'm going to spray over this design. I don't need thick coats, I just want it to be a nice light burst of orange. Then I'm going to go in with the black and Rust-Oleum as well, once that orange spray paint is dried. Then once the black is dried, I go in with flat white spray paint as my third layer for this geode. I go ahead and I do 2 coats of this white spray paint, and I let it dry for 2 or 3 hours before I go into starting my geode. Once I'm ready, I go in with some alcohol and some acetone. And we're going to go ahead and I use these big cotton swabs. These are like mechanic cotton swabs. These are amazing. I'm going in with some of my acetone and I'm just going to start rubbing random areas that I want to show through. However, with this tumbler, because it is a split tumbler and half of it is fall and half of it is Halloween, I forgot that during this process I was supposed to pay attention to where the sides are, because I wanted my decal to be split down the middle of where the Halloween and fall start, so this way there was an even portion, and I forgot about that. So however, there was more of, I believe, Halloween showing on the geode than fall. So if you do remake this tumbler, keep that in mind. I would start your geode at the bottom of your cup, so this way you can kind of find where your split is, and then you can go from there and have an even amount of fall showing and then an even amount of the fall side showing. Doing geodes can be really, really messy. I'm not a big fan of them because I feel like that white always doesn't come clean and it's just hard, especially when you use black. I should have did it reverse. I should have done the black first, then the orange, because when I started removing this, the black was actually washing out the orange, so I definitely should have done it reverse. I should have did black, orange, then white. I thought about that for a while when I did it, and I thought that, you know, having the orange as the base would be better. However, it wasn't. So just make sure that the color that you really want to see most, if you do a 3-layer geode, is in the middle. So this one, you don't really see much of the orange, as the black kind of dilutes it out and turns it into like a muddy, mustardy, orangey black color. Which, hey, whatever, it still worked. I was happy with it. So I kind of keep going back and forth with rubbing alcohol and acetone, and just kind of rubbing and cleaning my tumbler at the same time. I always have a hard time getting these black marks off if I leave them when I finish the geode, so I kind of just do it in sections. You'll see me going with a little bit of a magic eraser. If you have any tips and tricks on doing geodes that works for you without making a complete mess, or how to get this black off, I know the black spray paint is really hard, so you have to kind of put your elbow grease into it using alcohol and acetone. The more you work at it, the better it gets. But I also do show you a trick later on how I get my cup a little more white if I have too much of that black smudginess kind of all over my spray paint. This was the longest part of this process of the tumbler, so you do see quite a bit of this happening for quite a while. So I'm just going to go ahead and let this play for you guys as you watch it come together. Okay, so I got most of the black spots off. It's not going to come 100% clean, which we know. So I'm going to show you what I do. I grab some white paint and a brush, and I go in and I just go over that white, and then I lightly feather it out into that black, as you can see, just to brighten it up a little bit and to hide some more of that darker spots. And if I have too much black edge showing, you don't have to do this step. I do this step. I think it actually makes it look a lot better. It was just really grungy on that white, and I wanted it to be a little more bright and pop. So I went in and did a few coats of just a basic white acrylic paint and a brush, and I just kind of feathered it down and made it to how I wanted it. Like I said, it's totally your preference. You don't have to do this. I chose to do it, and I'm glad that I did. So if you ever run into an issue where you just absolutely hate that it's the white part of your tumblers are too dark, this is an option that you can do as well. Go ahead and let that dry, and then we are all set to start our next layers of epoxy. Again, I'm using my SPEEDY PETEY Fast Set Epoxy. I mixed about 20 milliliters of epoxy, and we're going to go ahead and throw this epoxy on. Adding in lavender ice from New England Glitter. It's got a beautiful purple, it's a white glitter, but it's got a purple tint to it, so it's got a nice purple shift to it, which will make this perfect for this tumbler. So I go ahead and apply that, and I let that dry for 2 hours before we move on to our decals. I found this decal off of CREATIVEFABRICA. It's the most wonderful time of the year. I thought this would fit perfect because it's a skeleton. It's got fall leaves, plus it's got a pumpkin, and pumpkins and skeletons go for both fall and they go for both Halloween. So I thought this would be the perfect decal to fit this tumbler. As you can see, we got the decal going on the fall side. Unfortunately, this is like the most fall that you'll see on this tumbler. However, I still think it turned out awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm using my water to soak the back of my water slide. This is clear water slide. I printed this on my inkjet printer, and then I sealed it 3 times with a clear gloss Rust-Oleum spray paint to let that dry. And then I'm just wetting it with some plain water until my water slide slides off the backing. Once it starts to slide off the backing, you can apply it to your tumbler. You always want to make sure that you apply your water slides, especially clear water slides, to a clear glossy background. If your tumbler is sanded, you will see those lines around your water slide, and it's not going to look that great. So you always want to make sure you apply a water slide, clear water slide, to a glossy surface. So even if you spray it with a clear gloss to bring back that shine, it will work. So I'm going to go ahead, apply my decal. I'm just using my fingers and lightly pulling out any wrinkles and shifting it around to the way that I want it. And then I grab my awesome makeup squeegee tool. I purchased this from New England Glitter. These are awesome for water slides. They help smooth out your water slides, get the wrinkles out, and they also push out that water without tearing or ripping your water slide. I highly recommend these if you've never used these. These are a game changer. I grab a coffee filter and I'm just lightly removing any of that excess water that is around the water slide, and I'm just going to lightly dry off my tumbler. I let this dry for about 20-30 minutes before I go ahead and add my final layers of epoxy. Once that's dry, I go in with 30 milliliters of SPEEDY PETEY Fast Set Epoxy. I am putting on about 10 milliliters of epoxy on this tumbler. I'm spreading it out nice and evenly. I am using a little bit of heat as it is cooler in here today, so the epoxy is a little bit thicker. So I just apply that so I can get a nice smoother finish on this tumbler. Then I'm going to go ahead and I mix in Hallows Eve, Sanderson Sisters, Bonfire, and It's Fall Y'all into the remaining bit of epoxy that I have left. Then I just go ahead and I place that around the decal area, being very light-handed. I don't want too much. And then I go ahead and apply some of it to the white geode parts of my tumbler, just giving it a little bit of color, adding some dimension, just so this way it pops a little bit more. Then I'm going to go in with the It's Fall Y'all leaves, and I'm going to go ahead and place a few of those on by hand, randomly on the tumbler. And then I'm going to go ahead and let that cure for about 30 to 45 minutes before I go ahead and apply my final layers of epoxy. Make sure you go over your tumbler with your heat torch, popping any bubbles you may or may not see. I let that cure for 2 or 3 hours and it was done. Y'all, I am so excited with the way that this tumbler came out. The colors, the geode, the decal, it all just came together. I trusted the process on this one, and again, I am so happy. I hope my cup swap person loves this tumbler as much as I do. I hope you guys love this tumbler as much as I do. I will list everything in the description box below. As always, thank you so much for watching our tutorial. Please hit that subscribe button and we'll see you again soon.